Hello, my name is Brad Mayo. On March 13th, 2020, I had the pleasure of interviewing the 91-year-old matriarch of the Sandy Hook, Kentucky Adkins family. Ivory Marie Adkins, or Marie as she was commonly called by family and friends, was a wife, sister, daughter, entrepreneur, business owner, and friend to countless in the northeastern Kentucky area. Our interview took place in Marie's home of 67 years, which is also located in Sandy Hook. With some family members watching on, our story starts with Marie recalling her childhood, parents, grandparents, Christian faith, and business undertakings. So sit back and watch as we explore her life and make the trip back to Sandy Hook, Kentucky. Today we are meeting with Ivory Marie Adkins of Sandy Hook, Kentucky, and if I'm not mistaken, could be called the matriarch of the Adkins family. Yes? And we are going to delve into the background of Mrs. Adkins and her family and what she can tell us about the history of her family on both sides. So I'm going to first let her tell us when she was born, and I know we're not supposed to ask ladies when their age or anything else, but this is a special occasion. So, Marie, if you would, when were you born?
April 28, 1928.
1928. Great. Good year. Right between my mom and my dad. And was that here in Sandy Hook?
It was in Elliott County, yes.
Elliott County,
Yep.
okay. I know in our family trees we see usually the city, the county, the state, and country if it applies. So, in your case, Elliott County in Kentucky, in the good old U.S. of A.
Mm-hmm. And I think my doctor that delivered me was Drusilla. What was she, Ferguson or Gillum? Drusilla on Middle Fork. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me about your mom and dad.
What about it? Their ages?
Well, just their names and maybe what they did, you know.
My dad's name was John Roscoe O'Neill. He was from William Frill O'Neill was his dad, and Dora Ball O'Neill was his mother.
I think we've been saved by the bell.
I believe we have.
That's all right. It's better than cars. Go ahead.
My mother's mother was Lila Adkins, and she married Louis Adkins. And she had a baby sister that passed when it was real small, Lizzie. And she had a sister that was older than her, though, Lucy. And my mother's name was Mary Hazel Adkins, and she married my dad, O'Neill.
Fantastic. What did your dad do?
He was a farmer and just worked on the farm and cut timber and one thing and another like that. Wasn't much to do them days at the farm.
And Mom was the homemaker?
Yes, gardener, farmer, whatever it done, come along, she done it. She made our clothes, she cooked our food, and she had us a helping.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can, try to think back to when you were a kid growing up and maybe a special event that may have occurred or a couple events during your childhood that just never leaves your memory.
Well, there's a lot of them. I can't think right now, but a lot of things went on. And we had sickness in the family. We had deaths in the family and things like that I can remember of. And I can remember a few things from the time I was 5 years old.
Uh-huh.
We moved from Middle Fork to Laurel Fork, and Daddy farmed over there, and he offered to pay half of his tobacco when he sold it for that farm, half each year till he paid for it. So that year when he sold the tobacco, it didn't bring anything, and he had to move, he thought, so he moved to Morgan County on Straight Creek. And he lived up there 1 year in one of the houses that people had left that they couldn't pay for that year too. And then we moved to another house on down the road when they came back home. And I was 5 years old. I can remember a little bit of that at that time. My dad and my husband's dad was sitting out by a big pool of water. Now I can remember this too, and they've told me too. And my husband was standing out there, almost 6 years older than me, standing out there. And he told his dad and my dad he'd marry me someday.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he did. And I said, when we got married, I said, you was a man knew your own heart, wasn't you?
There you go.
Oh, and mine, yeah, he was, yeah.
So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
There was 13 of us all together. One little sister passed at 2 weeks old. And they raised all 12 of us. And I was the oldest of all of them.
You was the eldest.
Oldest of all, yeah.
I was the oldest of 5, so I know what it feels like. But not 12.
Yeah.
Who would be your youngest sibling?
Deborah K. Cassidy.
Now, how many of your siblings survive today?
3.
3.
There's 4 sisters. 5 brothers is gone, and the other sisters, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit on your mom's side now. Kind of give me a feel for her family and going up, starting with her parents, and as far back as you can remember on that.
Okay. Well, let's see. Of course, I can remember. I can remember way back a lot, wanting to go to Mama's house. And when I got there, I didn't want to leave, because our papa was deaf. You had to speak sign language, which I never learned, but my mother could talk to him just like he did. And so anyway, when we'd go, we wanted to stay. They was good to us, and Mama would just cook and bake cakes, and everything was just so good. And Papa would put on Santa Claus suit and scoot around the house and jump out on us and scare us and play with us like that. And it was real good to go. I know they left me over there 1 week, and I can remember this too. There was a big rock cliff, and I was running along through there, and Daddy come after me, and I'd run from one end of that rock cliff to the other to keep him from getting me. I wanted to stay. And he finally said, come down from there, I'm taking you home. And I come down.
So how long in your life were your grandparents around?
Well, I should remember that. It's in the Bible there. I can't remember when they passed. My Papa O'Neill and Mama O'Neill, let's see, she lived quite a few years after Papa O'Neill passed. But their sons were in World War II, 2 of them, Boyd and Elt O'Neill. And they went in at the beginning and came out when it was over. And he passed while they were in the service, so I can't remember just what year it was.
Oh,
but I think I've got it down the back.
So be in the 40s then?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
40s?
Well, yeah, World War II. The night.
Yeah. I believe it was in 1947.
Okay, right.
When it...
Towards the end of the,
yeah.
Okay.
And,
No, it wouldn't.
no,
Yeah.
okay. It's kind of hard to remember all of that. There for a long time I could just remember it really well, but as time goes on it kind of changes.
Was your papa a farmer too?
Yeah, they were farmers. Daddy had one brother named... Daddy was a twin. His twin died. That flu that went through the country then is about like it is now.
Oh, back in the in the teens.
Yeah. He said they'd be two dead in their house at one time. And his one brother, Clifford, his brother was Walter Vesco, his twin. They was two sets of twins.
Wow.
But Clifford, whenever they'd go to the field to hoe corn, and they didn't have a big bunch of stuff at that time, I'm sure, just what they growed. And they said, Mama, rang the bell, dinner bell to come in for food. And he'd say, sop and molasses. That's what they had for food. Sop and said that's what the bell was saying. But get back to Mama and Papa Adkins, they was really, really good people, and they'd have church once a year at their house at the cemetery up on the hill, and Mama'd cook for everybody, and we'd just all have a real good time there at their house. I liked going over there and staying.
If you don't care, Marie, talk a little bit about what Papa did.
Papa
Your Papa Adkins.
Adkins. Oh, he had a grocery store, a little grocery store, and it was way off of the main highway of the road. And then after that, when he quit the grocery, having it outside, he went inside and boxed off so much of his living room and put a small grocery back in there so he could still have groceries for people. And he had a big farm. He could had everything cleaned up. It wasn't growed up like it is now. It was all level, not level ground, but cleaned up good all over the fields. Mama would go out and call the cow, and he couldn't hear, but if you hollered really loud, he could hear a noise. And her name was Lila, and he called her Daddy, because he had a way of saying her names like he could say them. Anyway, he'd say, Daddy, go, ooh. Yeah, he could do that.
Right.
And but he could work his hands just like we do a talking. He was a good papa.
Yeah.
And he was good to all of us. And my mother just worked like a beaver all of her life. She just, yeah.
That's typical of a farmer's wife, is it not?
Oh, yeah. Made all of our clothes, made all of our quilts. There wasn't nothing went to waste around her. Nothing.
So, out of all those things that took place when you were younger, what skills did you pick up from your mom or your grandmothers?
Just about all of it.
All of it?
Just about all of it.
You did it all, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, my mother, I was big enough I could watch her sew and make things and could sew a little bit myself. And she went to a funeral and left me home with my younger sister. And she bought material to make her quilt. And when she left, I went and cut that material up and made my little sister a dress. Had it on her when she come home. And she just about got me for that. And she was really upset about it. And she said, I would like to see a child you dress. So anyway,
Dolly Parton got a song out there about a patch quilt dress or something, all the different ones.
Well, she bought this material to make her a quilt, and there was two colors, red and then dotted some material. And she was going to trim it out with one and make her a quilt. And then I cut
made
it up
a real fine-looking dress.
Made Arlene a dress. It did. It fit her. It was fine. Wasn't nothing wrong with it.
And you made it for Arlene?
For Arlene. Arlene was yeah.
So what about some of the other things that you might have picked up from your mom?
Well, she had us a cook, and I baked the first biscuits at 12 years old. My grandmother O'Neill come over. My mother was sick. She come over and stayed all night. Well, no, she wasn't sick. She had a baby.
Okay.
And so I guess she was sick too. But anyway, she came over and stayed all night. And the next morning I had to get up and watch her make biscuits so I'd be able to. And from then on I had to make biscuits. And then when my husband came down to see me when I got old enough, and she'd make me cook every time he'd come. And he'd always bring candy bars, and he'd unroll a candy, and we'd eat the candy. And when I'd get the bread ready for the pan, he'd spread them candy bar papers out in the bread pan. I'd put the bread in on them and bake it. Take it up, my mother's house. Look what you've done to this bread. Who's going to eat this? Oh,
Let's switch gears again,
okay.
and let's talk about that 6-year-old sweetheart that you had.
A 6-year-old. Oh,
Yeah,
he was,
your husband, the one that you
oh
eventually
yeah,
married.
he was 6 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
I was 5 and he was 6 years, almost 6 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's start with, because I'm sure there was probably some years from the time you were 6 years old until you started courting with
I was 15.
your to-be husband.
I was 15.
He was 15.
Yeah.
So, tell us about some of those times.
Well, we got married May the 18th. Watch me not remember the year.
Mm-hmm.
In 43.
Okay. And how long did you court?
I believe it's 5 months.
5 months.
5 months. I
Yeah,
believe that's
and
what it was.
what did you like about him? What didn't you like about him?
I don't know.
Don't
I
know?
don't know. He was just okay.
He was-
Still okay. He was okay. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well,
We had some great understandings of me being 15 years old. There'll be no jealousy. There'll be no slapping. There'll be no talking, quarreling.
mm-hmm.
It'll all go all right. When it happens, I'm out of here. I was 15.
So it evidently worked out, huh?
Worked really good.
It sure did.
Worked really good.
So how long were you married, huh?
61 years.
61 years.
Passed away
61
in
beautiful
04.
years. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So how many children did you have?
None.
Had no children?
None.
No? Just the two of you?
We raised a lot, didn't raise them, but helped with a lot of family. He had sister-in-laws that passed away, and then they had children. And
Uh-huh.
we'd take them in for maybe a year or a few months, or wouldn't you know, what can we do?
Okay, I'm just going to stop it. Go ahead. So we were talking about your husband and your relationship with him. So pick out a few of events in your mind that are probably, the most memorable for something that involved both you and your husband. Okay?
Well, just about all of them
Well, I'm sure.
is good. Yeah,
But there's got to be a special
thing. I don't know. I mean, he was just good about everything. Now he didn't give me much trouble about anything.
Did you guys ever travel at all?
A little bit. We went to Florida a few trips. We went in Ohio. Lived in Ohio quite a bit. He worked up there
Mm-hmm.
at B.F. Goodrich, and they sprayed airplane wheels, and he got ulcers real bad and almost died. He was sick 3 years before he could work anymore.
Oh.
And I worked up there, and I was in a real nervous-like job, and I got really nervous, and the doctors had me to quit, and we both came back home. And his
Okay.
daddy got sick with cancer, and we helped with him. And when he passed away, the first day of December of '54, and the third day his burial, and on the 4th day we moved over here. We lived in Morgan County at the time.
Okay, then you come over to St. Elliott County.
Yeah, we had this place bought though, and was built this just 4 rooms here to rent. Wasn't going to live here,
Mm-hmm.
just going to rent it, and he just wanted to move away when his dad passed away.
Right.
Yeah, and we just came over and stayed, and intended all the time to build a new house. One thing and another would come up, and we didn't do it, so we just built on this and stayed.
What year did you buy this place?
I can't remember for sure, but it was in the early 50s, like maybe 50 or 49 or 50, something like that. Because I know in 52 or 3 or something, we had this house built and rented it 1 year. And they moved out, and that's when Brack's dad passed away, and that we just come on over.
Tell a story about how you had come to get this place. You remember about?
Yeah, we bought a little farm in Morgan County, $800, his dad bought it and let us pay him $200 a year. We had to go to Ohio to earn that much money then to pay and live. And that's what we done. And when I handed him the last $200, I said, I want to buy another farm. And he said, I know the very one for you. And it's in Elliott County. And it was this one. And he put his arms out like it was just going to spread out across everything. He said, them big fields just laying out, and it had me all. And we was going back to Ohio, and it was raining on a Sunday. And I wanted to come up by and look at it. And he didn't want to. I said, oh, let's just drive up and look at it. So he did. He came up, and we got the neighbor down here, and he showed us the lines. And I was so disappointed because it's on one side of the creek all the way up. I wanted the whole thing. But anyway, I still wanted the place. And his cousin owned it that lived in Fairborn. We went back by and stopped by her house. She wanted $3,500 for it. He said, no, I won't give that for it. I will give you $3,000 though. No, I won't do that. So we went on to Troy, and we worked all week, and every night come in, I'd say, let's go take that place. No, I'm not going to pay her that now. So one evening he come in, he said, get ready and we'll go. We'll take it. And while we was getting ready to go to Fairborn to buy it, she called and said, I'll take $3,000. I said, when can we make the deed? On the weekend. So we come down here, and it was a holiday on Monday. So we had to stay over another day, make the deed, and went back to Fairborn and worked and paid for it. We paid $3,000 for it, and had a man that cuts timber. There was plenty of timber here then, and he cut enough to build 4 rooms to rent, and to build him 4 rooms if he wanted to, the same amount to pay for cutting it. So when we come in, they had the 4 rooms built.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and we rented. And it was rented 1 year. And then in the meantime, all of that, we got sick and all that and came back to it.
Did you ever have any pet names for each other?
Yeah, he called me Honey all the time. And his dad said, if you don't quit calling her Honey, the bees will carry her off. Yeah, all the time, that's what he said. For years, well, all the time.
So what'd you call him?
Baby.
Baby.
Yeah.
Not uncommon, right?
I have to tell you this, and I hadn't ought to. Anyway, he drank a little bit at the start, and I told him, no, we won't have this drinking. It was all that was in the deal, but he drank some. So one night he drank just a little bit, and I decided this is enough. I'm not going to do this, and I didn't sleep that night. Next morning he went to sleep. Next morning he got up and he said, how are you this morning? I said, I'm not good. Why aren't you good? I said, didn't sleep any. Why didn't you sleep? I said, trying to figure out what to do with you. And he said, what? I said, me or you one's got to go. You just tell me what one you want to do and I'll do it. And he thought about it just a little bit and he said, if you'll hush, I'll never drink another drop. And as far as I know, he didn't.
There you go. Man made a wise decision.
I wasn't mad. I wasn't quarreling. I just said it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that's the end of it. I will not do it.
Fantastic.
I always said sound words easy understood.
And I don't even know if we asked it in the beginning, but what was your husband's full name?
Braxton Wesley Adkins.
Wesley, that was his middle name. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think you did say that in the beginning, now that I recall, but okay, I just wanted to get that on the record.
Yeah, that's his full name. He was the baby of the family. His mother passed away when he was 2 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know in researching your family tree, and I had to get some clarification from Mike this morning because I was doing it for a second time. I left all my notes in Alabama. So we got that all straight, and I was trying to get the link between this family, the Gillums, and where you, and it fell in real nice, in the family tree there. So, and I do have that, and I don't know if from the Gillum side, like I say, I go way back on that side of the family. And I don't know if yours went back that far or not, but be more than glad to share it with you. No problem.
Yeah, Michael wanted me to tell you about Papa riding a horse, and Papa Adkins, the one that was deaf, he sold, what was they called?
Raleigh.
Riley products. And he would ride this horse out to people and take up orders. And then when he'd start to leave, he'd touch his horse on the back of the saddle, on his hips, and that horse would dance out of sight, back and forth like that. And we loved to see that. And then he'd look back and laugh and wave at us. And he'd deliver the products then. He'd do the same thing. And when he'd come out to bring them to him and pick up his money.
So that was, you said Riley products?
Riley products.
What is a Riley product?
Just all kinds of things like Avon's or somebody sells. They had
Like house products, household products.
Household.
cleaning things and
Liniments.
liniments and all kinds of
Spices.
creams
Fibers.
and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, they always had delivery folks back then that were selling. I mean, everything from the Fuller Brush Man to Riley was a new one on me. So,
It was way back there.
oh yeah, I can remember that, and I can remember
Yeah.
the guy coming, the knife sharpener. The guy had and he was a push cart. He didn't even have a horse, man. This was two-handed like a wheelbarrow,
Yeah.
but it was four-wheel, and he'd push that thing along, and then
Wow.
he had a little pull-out seat and pedals, just like an old pedestal sewing machine or something, right? But two pedals on that thing, and that'd get that big old sharpening wheel spinning, and all the ladies come out of the neighborhood and bring their knives, and he'd sharpen them all up for,
Well,
10 cents, a quarter, whatever it was back in the 50s.
and it was pretty good times. And nobody knew thought they was having a hard time. Everybody lived the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody felt like they was above anybody else, I don't think, because everybody fared about the same.
That's right.
Yeah. My mother made all of our clothes. And
If you don't care, talk a little bit about the Depression and how you guys got through that. Through the stamps that you had to get.
oh, yeah. Well, during the World War II, they had stamps out. Probably you knew that, to buy food and clothing. Anything you bought, you had to have and I did have them here, but I don't know where they're at. They're probably in that safe with all them papers somewhere. But anyway, they're little in a book and little stamps. Have you ever seen them?
I think I have, as far as the ration stamps that they had.
That was them. You couldn't buy a quart of kerosene was a nickel, but you had to have that little stamp to get it. And you couldn't buy no more until the length of time it's supposed to be up, for.
Right.
And the same way about your shoes, your clothes, your gasoline for your vehicles, which we paid when we went to Ohio and got a car. The gas was 29 cents a gallon.
That was expensive. I can remember in the 60s where they had price wars and it was 23 cents a gallon.
Oh yeah, well, different places it was lower. And it was kind of trying times. You buy clothing, you just get one pair of shoes now and then. And I was hard on shoes. I'd wear my shoes out before time. We get on ice, skating on the ice, and my mother thought, get off of that ice, you're wearing your shoes out. Take care of them shoes.
Well, I understand that, and only from what I've learned from my wife, and the way she grew up in Meadow Fork. And getting the pair of shoes once a year, that was a big event.
Yeah. But they would last pretty good then. They made them better than they do now, I believe.
Oh, yeah, they weren't plastic.
No, that's for sure. It was pretty difficult. I know when we went up there. Now, if you haul people to work, they would give you more gas money, and they would you could buy it more often, and you could also, your tires for your cars, you had to have those to buy them.
Now, you mentioned a couple of men in your family shipped off during World War II.
Daddy's two brothers.
Your daddy's two brothers, okay. And
the baby brother, and one was
they
somewhere in-
both made it back home.
Yeah, they both came home. One was in battle all the time, and one was a cook. And one was in the battles all the time, come back, he was, I don't know what they call it.
It's probably what we call today PTSD. If
Maybe, I
if
don't know. He would take spells that he was good as gold. He'd just be good to you as he could be.
Mhm.
And other times, he'd want to kill somebody.
That's
or
PTSD.
something. And maybe another time he would think he had. And he would come and ask Daddy, did I hurt anybody? Have I done something?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd take him to Lexington and keep him a week or two, and he'd come back kind of like he was.
Right.
But before he went, he was just a real jolly young guy. He was the baby of the family. And
That was or is even today
Mhm.
a bad side of war,
yeah,
because the folks in all the wars
Mhm.
that have experienced some really gross atrocities during
oh
war.
Lord, yeah, yeah.
And if you're in the battles
Mhm.
or in and around them and you see these things, that's enough just in and of itself. And then
Yeah.
seeing your friends go down.
Oh yeah,
And World War II, Vietnam, they all had it, but nobody knew what PTSD was. They just didn't recognize it. A lot of times they even considered it being a weakness of the man, and that
Uh-huh,
wasn't the
yeah.
case at all.
Well, a lot of people didn't like him, didn't like to talk with him because they really didn't know when he'd act up. But now he couldn't help that.
And they didn't understand.
No, they didn't.
Nobody did back in those
Didn't-
days.
Well, that's true. But
So-
some was afraid of him, but now he wouldn't hurt you, or he'd talk about, he'd hurt people, but he never did.
Mm.
And he
I remember-
married and had a family.
Yeah, I remember when I went in the late 60s, went into the Air Force, and we were still, there was a lot of riots and protesting over the war and everything else. And
Oh yeah,
it was to the point where the military people, we were told not to wear our uniforms, or if you were going to work, you didn't stop anywhere in any store or anything in uniform because of all the stuff that was going on
yeah.
back then.
And that's something.
And people come back from the war and they're getting spit on and everything else. It was bad.
That's a shame. People
And
treat
it's
people that
a
way.
totally different environment
Them people
today.
is to be appreciated the longest day they live on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
For
So-
sure, what they went through.
Well,
I
a
know
lot,
he
lot
was-
of pride in every family that's got somebody that served like that. So
Yeah,
Sure is.
yeah, but that's. Papa passed away while they were their daddy, and they didn't get to come back for that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they were over there. They probably couldn't.
Well, they
come
couldn't,
back.
yeah. And my dad was over in Europe
Mhm.
too.
But that one that done the cooking, he was like changed somewhat. He drank himself to death, I guess. But
It's
the
been
other
known to
one, he
happen.
finally quit. Yeah,
There's a lot of veterans out in the street today that,
Mhm.
and they can't bring them in because they don't want to come in.
Yeah.
They just stay out on the street.
Well,
But because they're afraid of what they do when they
Mm-hmm.
get mixed in with other people.
I know when Dale, that was my husband's nephew, when he went in this Vietnam thing.
Uh-huh.
When he come home, he signed up for different times. He could have come home, but he didn't. He stayed till it was over,
Mm.
and he got shot 5 times. And they got all the bullets out, but one was still in him when he passed away. But when he come home, he wouldn't sleep in a house, in a bed for 2 years. He just traveled, sleep under a bridge or anything. So
Yeah.
he couldn't. But he finally married and come back here and stayed on our place over there.
Well, I'm glad it worked out
Yeah,
for him anyway.
Yeah, for a long time, and then he moved down past Lexington, wasn't it, or somewhere? Campbellsville, yeah. Okay, and he got real sick down there and passed away.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to ask some of your other family members here if they've got some questions that they want to throw your way.
Well, you were talking about a little bit ago about you and Brack, then later on in life, before that you guys retired and before that he passed, your business, and you had your and Sandy Hook.
Yeah, Yeah.
how you got it started and
Yeah, we put in a clothing store down in Sandy Hook.
department store,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I was working at Moorhead, and I've been there almost 7 years, and it just stayed on my mind that last year. You've got to do something else and get out of here. It was real hard, and then having to go to Moorhead to work. And I just kept thinking and thinking, and one day it just popped in my mind, put in a clothing store. Well, then I started wondering what kind and how to do it, because there was a store, a discount store. What was that one down there?
Pritchard's.
Like a dollar store
Oh,
or something like that.
Yeah.
Burns.
And then there was a higher price store, and I kept thinking about a dollar store, but I thought, no, you can't do that. So let's get in the middle of them two, get a medium price. And then I thought, well, now how nobody would tell me how to buy. I didn't know one thing about it, but I just kept knowing I wanted it. And one day I just walked in the store at Moorhead, Mr. Burns. I'd bought a lot there, and told him who I was and what I came in for. And I said, I want to put in a store just like yours in Sandy Hook, and if it won't hurt you, I would like to do it. And he said, well, what can I do? I said, you could help me find where to buy. He thought about it a little bit, and he said, I don't see it hurting me, and I can help you. Just like that. And he set up a time, and we met in his store, Frank and I did, one night after I worked. And he said, do you fellas want me to tell you how to buy, or do you want me to buy? We said, we'll just watch you buy. And we got up on the counter and sat up there and told him just buy what we had to have to open the store. And he bought everything that we had to have to open the store up. And we went down and rented a building, getting ready for it to come in, and cleaned it up. And the people's family that had the big store up down there came in and said, oh, this will make you guys a good grocery. We said, it sure will. We didn't tell him what we was doing. It sure would, we said. And anyway, it went on, and that big old semi-truck pulled up one day loaded with completely them big boxes. We worked till in the night, every night. And that was the first day of March, and we opened the 18th day of March. And we stayed there 26 years.
And the
Wow.
name of it was what?
And how many groceries did you sell?
That wasn't grocery.
I know, I'm kidding.
It's clothing. Yeah, it's yeah.
Now, I know back where I grew up, which is way up close to the Canada line in New York, they call that the rag industry, selling clothes.
Yeah.
And, well, of course, down in New York City was where a lot of the designers and all that stuff
Yeah.
go about.
Yeah, it went really well. Elaine worked some. Lisa, I don't know, did you work some down the store? Yeah. Okay. And then we had to have some help. We had upstairs, and we finally bought a building down there. We rented one for 2 years.
But what was the name, Marie?
Wesley's Department Store, his middle name. He said his niece was up here with us, and she was going to school, and she stayed with us until she finished high school. And me and her was trying to figure out a name for it, and we told him we were going to name it Wesley's. Oh, no, don't you do that now. That name was not good. You know, he just went on and on about it, but we went right ahead and made up the signs and everything, put them up. I told you not to do that. But we did anyway, but it went all right. It went good. And people was so good. They come.
Tell about your first shopping experience when you went to buy clothes the first time, or how you got set up to buy clothes the first time.
We bought that to open up with, but then the style shows was coming up pretty soon to buy for spring. You buy them so many months ahead of time. And Mr. Burns said meet him down at Moorhead, and he'd take us to Lexington, or we could follow him. So we missed him somehow, and we went right on to Lexington, not knowing where we was going. But we went down through there, and we knew it was in that one motel there on Main Street. And we went, and they was having the lodge. What was the
Masons.
Masons? Yeah, the lodge. Right, and the driveway was right between it and the motel. So he had his ring on, and had it up in the window, not knowing he just drove in there, and they thought he was coming to that lodge. They was having a big meeting, and they said, "Right in here, sir." Parked him. We got out and walked across, went up in the motel, and run right into Mr. Burns. There he was.
There you go.
So he said, "Just come and go with me," and he took us to each one of the people he bought from. And
It was like a fashion show or something?
yeah, that's what it is. They bring their wares, every company, like, you know, your shirt, your pants, your shoes, everything's from a different people, different companies, and they have them set up like in their own booths, curtains around the room or whatever. Whenever we go to like a big place where there wouldn't be no partitions, they set up curtains, you know, around. But they had rooms there. And we just went from room to room buying what we needed, and he would guide us what we would need, and we found out a lot of things that we did not know. Of course, it was big help of having Mr. Burns. He was so good. And one thing, whenever you're buying a shirt or a blouse for me or something, or for anybody, you buy 2 smalls, 3 mediums, 1 large, like that. You put your good sizes all in mediums. That's most sizes of people. Yeah, and just different things like that.
I would reckon to say it's probably different today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The old 32 slacks
Yeah.
is up here, and then the bulk of the stuff is down here.
Well, see, everything like that works about the same way, though, really.
Yeah, well, but people are
Yeah.
bigger these days.
And then we didn't know you had to be counted, whether you pay good or not good or whatever, you know. Which then we was just counting on paying for it when it come in. And it didn't come in from the time we ordered for like, what, maybe 3 months, 2 months, 3 months or something like that. It was always you buy ahead.
So they always make it to order then.
They make it.
Yeah, because they just have
After
samples
order.
there, then they got to go
Yeah,
back and
right,
manufacture
yeah.
all the stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's kind of the way we got started, and we just kind of growed into it, and it just become a part of us. I really like the store. I hate to quit it so bad.
So did you close the store or sell it, or?
I guess we sold about everything, didn't we? Yeah, there's quite a few things left, and we just handed them out here and there, this way and that way. My brother put a bunch of them in his car. Thought he'd just go out here and sell them. Sold a few and then brought the rest back out here in the garage, and I think I sold them in a garage sale. But, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had a successful venture
We
in it.
did.
26 years?
26 years, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then, was it after that we put in the jewelry store?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
something else, what was?
You had the jewelry store in,
Later.
Yeah, later on, yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't think we were in it very long, was we? How long was it?
couple, 3 years maybe?
Yeah, something like that. And the man come in from Huntington and wanted to buy it, and we just sold it to him. Because we was getting pretty much wore down. And our little neighbor boy down here, he was young. How old was John at that time?
20s, early 20s.
Was he 20?
Mm-hmm. He just
Okay.
graduated high school.
Okay, we sent him to Cincinnati to take training how to fix jewelry, do all of, make rings and do all of that stuff. And his mother wouldn't let him go by himself. She went with him, rented him rooms, and they stayed, and he took his training, come home, and then he done our repairs at the jewelry store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of a unique employment opportunity to sit there. I don't know what, I guess they just call the guys that do that jewelers or jewel
Yeah.
mechanics or something. I'm not sure. But
Yeah, it's a lot to it. He can make rings. He made his mother ring while he was there taking training. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing what they can do.
Oh, yeah. He's a good boy yet. We still think a lot of him.
So is he still in that business?
No, he's, you've been working for him, haven't you?
He's a contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, got his GC license. Fantastic.
Michael helps him out. We help him out all the time. We have what we can.
We try.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
In the jewelry store, you had a break in.
Yeah, we had.
What happened there? Did you think?
Yeah, we had. There was a man. We bought the whole lot back through there, and there was a little house, and there was a man lived back there, and he took care of the mowing and cleaning the snow off of
Maintenance
it,
and stuff. Yeah.
all that sort of thing. And he heard the alarm go off, and he come out. Now that was one break-in. We had 2 break-ins, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
That was one. No, it wasn't the first one, was it? It was the second.
No, the first one when Bill Young, sheriff came and
Yeah,
got you
oh
guys
yeah,
and
the
went-
sheriff, yeah, come and got me and Brack and drove us around. They took watches on cards and all kinds of things. And the sheriff come and got us, and he said, we'll find them people. He always was mad about it. And we drove every place to look at, and we went over on Sheepskin Road, they call it down there, down through there, and looked over here, and here laid a whole bunch of watches, whole bunch. They got scared and throwed them, and they just went every way, and we got out and picked them watches up and took them back, but you couldn't sell them as a new watch anymore.
Well, they get damaged
So
when they
we
got
give
flipped.
some of them away and just whatever to get them away out, and we I don't know, did they ever get them or did they? I forgot.
The guy that took them,
Mhm.
yeah, they got the guy that took them.
Okay, I
Yeah.
forgot what we done about that.
Do you remember where you went to find out about it? The guy that took them, do you
No.
remember?
No, where was it?
Okay,
I forgot.
it was out there where you're talking about where the watches were.
Yeah.
On out there.
Oh, on out there.
But yeah,
Okay.
now the guy's name, that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but they did get the.
Yeah,
that done.
I will not say his name. No need to tell that now, are they?
No.
But anyway, that other time, that guy that was living there and kindly watching out for things, he come out of there with his knife after that feller. And that feller was running, and he dropped his knife and he picked it up. No, he had a gun, and that guy dropped his knife. That's what it was. So he got his knife, and when we got down there, he had the law there and everybody. And so I don't know. It's just it's a battle uphill and down, whatever you go at.
Any kind of business is a target for somebody
Yeah,
that
oh,
doesn't
yeah.
want to
Uh-huh.
work for a living, I
But
guess.
we was blessed, I thought, beyond measure anyway. More than we expected. The Lord's been good to us. Really good.
Well, I tell you what, I want to give you the opportunity right now to tell us anything about your family that maybe nobody else knows.
Well, I don't
Only
know.
but you.
I don't know. I can't
Huh? You
think.
can't think of anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Anything.
Well,
That you take.
let me, I'll give you a different opportunity then.
Okay.
An opportunity to tell members of your family what you would like to see them do over the course of their lives, because we're not going to be around forever,
Yeah.
and what your advice would be to continue their lives, any kind of advice you can think of, but
Right now for them now?
for anybody in your family or the whole family as a whole, either
Yeah.
one.
Well, the only thing I can think of that would be much importance for me to tell them would be serve the Lord with all its strength and that's in you. Stay close to Him. Be ready to meet Him when He comes for them. That's
Very good advice. Very
Yeah,
good advice.
That's the best thing I could tell them to do. Well, it's been 71 years ago. I went to church a year before over at Watson. We lived on Middle Fork for 9 months. He went over to work for Willard Addington 9 months, and then we come back to Morgan County. But anyway, I went over to church, and I felt like I ought to go at the altar, and I didn't go. But I promised the Lord, if I'm ever at church again, I'm going to the altar. And when I come back, sometimes I'd go to bed and I'd be crying, and he'd say, Brack would say, what's the matter? Why are you crying? I'd say about the same thing you ought to be. I never could even bring it all out. And so anyway, he just let it go then. And then I said, told the Lord, if I'm at church again, I'll go at the altar. So when they give out church around Straight Creek over in Morgan County, just for Sunday services. So Brack's dad and me and their daughter, Brack's half-sister, and my brother, Noe, walked around there, and they was like 10 years old. And we walked around there to church, and whenever they give the altar call, I was sitting on the left side of the schoolhouse in a little school seat. I just got up and went to the altar. When I did, that altar lined all the way across. And they give it out that night. I went back that night, went every night till Friday night, and the Lord saved me. When I come to myself, I was on the other side of the house hugging people, and I do not remember to this day getting up from that altar or how come me over there. I mean, how I got there. But I was hugging people. So Brack wasn't there, and we come back to church. They give the revival out, and it went on for weeks. And on the 12th day of July, Brack got saved. And then in August, they organized the church. There was enough of people that he got saved that they organized the church in that year.
That was at Straight Creek.
Straight Creek Church, Enterprise Baptist Church. It's still there, and I still go over there. It's the home church.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of years.
Yeah. That's the best things we all ever done.
We do.
Yeah. It's.
With that,
But the Lord blessed me beforehand, and I don't know why I always had a fear of the Lord. I tell my mother, when I can remember it, I was little, but I can remember it, wake me up in the morning, because I felt like she didn't wake me up, I wouldn't wake up. So
well, there's a lot of things, I think, in all of our lives.
I always had a fear
The
of
Lord reaches us in a lot of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
We all have our own story about
Yeah.
that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's one you don't forget.
Oh, no.
Stays right there.
And, yeah, well, I can remember my day being saved as well, so very vivid day.
Like this old preacher was preaching a funeral up in Paintsville, and they said he was kind of a rich person almost, had plenty of money anyway. And they took him back on the hill to bury him, and the preacher and this guy was walking off the hill. And this guy said, wonder how much he had. I said, how do you say that? No, I wonder how much he left. He said he left it all. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it all.
It wasn't a hard answer, was it?
No, he left it all. Yeah. So that's.
That was, that,
So all of this don't mean a big lot gathering up that much stuff. As long as you have enough to live on, that's all we need.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, the advice you gave your family
And it
is
says to
by
be
far,
contented, don't it?
says a lot about you and the life that you lived. And I've seen remnants of that meeting your family in different occasions and everything else. So
Well, see, they all
you got much to be proud of, for
they all
sure.
go to church. Joe's the pastor over at his church.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. Marie, thank you.